Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's not your average Josh, back here for another video. Finally, it's been a few days. I've been really busy, and today I'm going to give my thoughts on House of the Dragon. I actually did a video last week, and it was about a 30-minute long video, and yeah, I accidentally deleted it. Honestly, that's really what happened, and yeah, after I did that, I was like, I really got to film this again. I said, I'm just going to wait till the next episode comes out. I'm sure it's going to be really good again, and thankfully it was. It might be the best episode so far for me personally of this season. I think, man, this show is really hitting on all cylinders right now. This is just going to be a kind of mostly a review of episode 7. All 6 episodes leading up to this particular episode that just came out was really good. You know, it's been a very different series than the original Game of Thrones series, which I loved a lot. I loved it all up to the last season. There's obviously parts I didn't like about the last season, like most people, but I generally still liked it and appreciate what it is. I mean, what they accomplished with it. And with all the circumstances, with them basically having to create more of what happens than in previous seasons with that Game of Thrones first original series, because, of course, the books were not done or the books were over or whatever. They couldn't go by the books as much anymore. So going into this, I was feeling like it was going to be a different series. I didn't know how I felt about it. It's a prequel. With any type of prequel series or movie, you're going to have this, you already have this knowledge going into certain characters that may be in it that are in the future movies within whatever franchise. With this in particular, I think, you know, going into it, I didn't know how I felt about it. It's different people that we're following, so that was a good thing. It's 200 years before, or about 300 years, or whatever it is. So they do have stakes within it that, you know, where you're not always focusing on, well, we all know how this ends with the fucking White Walkers and shit. Because this really doesn't have anything to do with that. It's a completely different time period, and even though you know what it eventually ends up happening, it's still interesting, and that just goes into the writing. The directing, all the different directors so far that have been involved. I just know that Miguel Sapochnik is the one who directed this latest episode, episode 7. And I mean, I just thought he was really great directing this, but all the episodes have been great. Another thing I was a little unsure about was the idea of Millie Alcock, who plays Rhaenyra, and then, of course, Emily Carey, who plays Allison, the young versions of them. We're going to be replaced midway through the season. I was a little unsure about it. You know, midway through the season, we've seen it before with time jumps after seasons, but this was the first for me in terms of shows that I'm really involved with. Something like this, I was just a little unsure, especially since it's the first season. I didn't want them to really upset the balance, but long story short, they accomplished everything that they could have with this. Going into the first 2 episodes, you're starting to build. They're already doing time jumps a couple years ahead as we get into the first few episodes, and then this latest time jump that happens, I believe, after episode 5, that then we have that time jump to episode 6 where we have Rhaenyra, everything going on with her, and years later now, 10 years later, and as soon as you see the new Rhaenyra, Emma D'Arcy, as soon as you see Olivia Cook as Allison, both of them, it just, I was immediately sold. And just with everything going on, the first scene you see is Rhaenyra giving birth to another kid. You know, you realize she's already had kids, and she just, this really intense, another birth scene. This show really likes its birth scene so far. Really brutal stuff, but it really puts it in perspective how hard that is just in general, let alone back then. But yeah, I thought just as soon as you see her going through that, you're like, okay, yeah, she earned this part. But I will say it is a little weird. I don't know if it's necessarily a criticism of me, but it is a little weird that Sir Christian Cole is the same guy. Not that I hate that. I mean, I think he's really good. All the actors, to be honest, have been good. I don't have any complaints about any of the acting. It's just, it did seem a little weird how he pretty much looks the same to me. I mean, I get it. He was already an adult, basically, it looked like. And you say, well, Allison and Rhaenyra were younger, but also the actors that are playing them are in their 20s already. You could have done it. But like I said, in the end, I'm not hating, because the actresses that came in have done a great job, and it was a nice handing of the torch, I guess you will say. I'm sure you guys have all, if anyone's watching this, you have seen episode 1 through 6. I'm going to go ahead and leave most of this video to talking about and devoting my time to episode 7, because this episode was absolutely great. As soon as I started this episode, I'd already started to see little stuff popping up online or whatever. People saying, oh my God, this episode. And so I was just going in like, okay, this could be an episode where things finally get really, really fucking crazy. And it does. Just as soon as the episode starts, you're at the funeral of Lena, who died in the last episode. She burns alive, having her dragon burn her alive because another birthing scene. She was not going to be able to have the baby, and she might have ended up dying anyway, probably would have died too, so she just ended it. And you really see just Damon going through a lot of emotion, but as we start this episode with the funeral, it's just really just tension, man. This episode just builds tension, built it better than any other episode so far, and they've done a really good job, even the last episode. And it's just, or in the episode before that, but it's just, I was like just so tense in like the best way, just like what is going to happen. You have this, everyone just giving each other these dirty looks. Everyone knows something about someone else. It's classic Game of Thrones, what the first few seasons of Game of Thrones did so well. And you didn't need a huge battle scene or anything. You just, it was the writing, the dialogue was so well done. You didn't need too much talking between two people. There'd be these little conversations, and that would be it. But you'd get enough from those conversations to be like, to just be more involved and more tense. Like, what is going to happen? Who's going to backstab who? Eventually, you have Otto back here, kind of getting himself back into the king's graces, I guess you would say, after he got removed from the hand of the king, since the hand of the king in the last episode passed away. I can't remember that guy's name, but him and his son unfortunately burned alive in that as well. A couple burnings in that last episode, but I just thought this episode, just from the beginning, it just really set the tone very well. And then, of course, you get this nighttime scene where Damon and Rhaenyra finally really hook up, and you know, I don't know how to feel about it because I'm going back and forth on their characters. I really like Damon. I like Rhaenyra. But obviously the incest thing is fucked up. And the fact that they shoot this scene of them having sex and they shoot it like it's really a romantic moment. And there's a party who's like, yeah, this is kind of beautiful the way they're shooting it, but it's really still not nasty, man. But to me, their relationship, Damon and Rhaenyra, is mirroring Jaime Lannister and Cersei's relationship in terms of them just loving each other, even though you're not supposed to. Their brother and sister, obviously, this is uncle and niece, I guess. Not as bad. I don't know. Either way, it's still fucked up. Still incest, still making that pure blood survive. At least in original Game of Thrones series, they hit it a little better. They were, I guess, but it was still like the blonde hair thing. I don't know. It was still a little easy to tell, but this is just obvious what Rhaenyra has going on with being with Laenor, him being her husband, and you know, he's obviously black with blonde hair, and these babies were white with black hair. It's just pretty obvious that the fact they even thought it would work out, or maybe they're just Rhaenyra was just being so lazy and just not lazy. I don't know what the right word would be necessarily, but complacent, maybe, just like we'll deal with it at another time. I guess that would be laziness, but procrastination maybe. But obviously it came back to bite her. But with this episode, after this funeral, you get the night scene with them hooking up, and then you get the son Aemond. You get Aemond, I believe, yes. I'm going to be a little bit probably mixed up here. There's a lot of people involved here. I'm not as bad as some other people who just can't remember the names very well. So I believe it was Aemond, the son of the king and Alicent, who gets the dragon. He claims the dragon that was Elena's. It was going to be the daughter or one of her daughters to claim it, and then this motherfucker goes in the middle of the night right after the funeral and claims that dragon. At first I didn't know what the hell was going on. And one thing I will say about this night scene, come on, guys. Come on, Miguel Sapochnik. Great job directing this episode. But damn, I don't know if he's the one who directed the night scene with the White Walkers, the invasion or whatever of Winterfell, whatever you want to call it, the siege of Winterfell. The biggest problem with that episode, there was no problem except the lighting. That was really actually the only problem. And again, with this, the lighting, I get what they were trying to do, and looking into it, there was some behind-the-scenes stuff. They did shoot it in the day, and they just darkened it, which makes it even worse because, if you're shooting it at night, it's understandable, I guess. It's still messy if it looks too dark, but the fact they actually shot it in the day and they made it the color grading darker to make it look like night, that's just a huge mistake. You need to lighten that up a little bit. It was just way, way too dark. I heard a lot of people that had problems seeing it, and no matter how they adjusted their settings, I didn't even adjust my TV settings. I was just hoping that it wasn't going to be a long sequence because I didn't feel like adjusting the settings, because I remember trying to adjust it for that episode in season 8 with the White Walkers, and it helped a little bit, but I was hoping this wasn't going to be a full nighttime episode or whatever anyways, and luckily it wasn't. And once you see Aemond in the sky with the dragon, and I'll mention that as well, I really did like that moment where Aemond goes up to the dragon, because there is a half a moment where you're like, because, what this world of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon has built, for a moment you're like, man, this dragon could like severely burn this kid or something, like, or maybe even kill him. You never know. Death could happen at any time, and that's what's really starting to build with this series. I think it is a cool moment when he does claim the dragon. He says the right language, you know, is whatever language, if it's Targaryen language or Valerian, whatever it is, I don't know, so all the languages. I love when he's flying through the sky with the dragon, and that was just a cool shot. The way the dragons look is pretty amazing in this series, and the CGI in general, they're not having to do too much dragon stuff compared to what you might think, just being called House of the Dragon. But it was really cool seeing him in the sky, and then you immediately he sets it down. You get this scene with the kids, and if you've seen it, obviously, if you're watching this, hopefully you have seen this. Spoiler alert, I will put a spoiler warning way back at the beginning of this episode on the screen. I haven't really mentioned that yet, but if you've gotten this far, you probably understand that this is definitely some spoilers. This scene with the kids, though, I mean, it's so brutal, and it reminded me, if any of you out there have seen Black Phone, the scenes in Black Phone, I mean, there was like a few fucking kid fights in that movie that were brutal, man. For I think it was a rated R movie in the end. I'll look it up. I'm sure I'll put it on the screen here. But in Black Phone, you just had some brutal ass kid fights. The fight here is like trumps that, just because it has that Game of Thrones feel where like anything could happen here. I was thinking for a second someone might die, and you just get this sequence, and the kids are just going at it, and then you eventually get, I mean, just the way Aemond, I don't know how to feel because I kind of respect him in a way, but then when he punches the girls, that I'm just always against. And then I do like Rhaenyra's kids in general. I think I'm more on the side of Rhaenyra and Damon in the end right now, even though Rhaenyra did some shady shit, which I'll get to once all this shit goes down. But the kids end up fighting, and they're punching each other. He's fucking hitting them with rocks and shit. Aemond is. It's Aemond against two of the sons of Rhaenyra, and then it is the two Velaryon girls, daughters of Lena and Damon. And so you have all four of them, but even though they're all younger against Aemond, they're not that much younger, 4 against 1, but he's holding his own. I mean, he's picking up a rock and he's using it, and that's when I was like, okay, this shit could get bad. And then when you see one of the kids, can't remember which one, but pulls out the blade, one of the young boys, Rhaenyra's kid, pulls out a blade, and then you get, and I think it is kind of symbolic before I go on, that you do get Rhaenyra and Damon's kids both fighting. I do think there's something symbolic about that. Both of them fighting against Aemond, who's Allison. I think there is some maybe some foreshadowing there of how the alliances will go. Then eventually you get one of the kids, Rhaenyra's kids, pull out a blade and just slice Aemond's fucking eye, and that shit was brutal. When that happened, I was like, oh, like freaking out because I did not know it was gonna happen, and that shit happened so fast, and you heard the slice, it just felt so real. And then you get the sequence, of course, afterwards. The guards finally come in. The guards in this show, just even later in this episode, I'll talk about it a little bit, but they come a little bit too late. But yeah, you get the sequence now. The best scene in the whole episode is when everyone's in there and all of a sudden shit is really starting to boil over. Allison is there. Her kid got her eye taken. The maester is there. The maester says that he will not have an eye. He will just have one eye now, and she's pissed. And the king is just, I feel so bad for King Viserys. He's just, I haven't really talked about him in this video yet, but this whole season been going through it, man, health-wise and mentally just deteriorating. All he wants is just for things to be peaceful. But the thing is he's not a good king. I mean, it's just obvious. I think it's very apparent he's not a good king. He's a good man. He's maybe one of the best men in terms of just niceness and trying to make sure everything always is peaceful. But unfortunately, especially in this world of Game of Thrones, you can't be the peaceful guy all the time. You really can't be. It's just unfortunate everything he has to go through, and he has so much moments in this just one scene where he's like, I am the king! I am your grandfather, listen to me! You know, he's just going off, he has this huge speech, and you just feel for him, man, because he just wants peace, but obviously we know that's not going to happen. There's going to be a civil war that happens, and we can see it coming. And I did not watch the preview of this next episode, but I think it might show the king dies. That's just what I heard. This sequence here, you get everyone going against each other. The king starting to question the kids on what happened, why this started. Rhaenyra actually, I believe, says that they were accused of being bastards. And it actually is true. And this is the part where I'm against Rhaenyra a little bit, because I get it. It's the Game of Thrones. You got to use shit to your advantage, even if it's not true. But it is fucked up in a way, because Allison, she hasn't gone full evil yet. She almost does in this episode. That's the thing. I think she's going that way, and a lot due to Otto and just how she really hasn't had a purpose except just trying to climb the ladder in a way for her family, basically, since she was a young girl. Since the king's wife died, that's basically all she's been doing. She doesn't really love the king like that, and she's just been doing duty over anything. She hasn't been able to love or anything either. That's why she shows this jealousy and this disdain for Rhaenyra, because she's just been able to sleep with this motherfucker Harwin, even though now he's passed away. Allison didn't want that, but which takes me to Larys, that creepy motherfucker, but we'll get to that. I just love how Corlys and Rhaenys come down the steps, and they don't really say shit. This whole fucking sequence, because so much crazy shit's going on, even though their daughters got punched and shit, and you can see they're visibly hurt. This whole thing is so crazy. They were just kind of sitting there like, what is going to happen? A few people, even Damon, just for most of the time is sitting there. First, of course, you get Aegon. Aemon basically blames Aegon for telling him that they're bastards. Rhaenyra's kids are bastards. And then, of course, you get Aegon come out and say, everyone knows, the king's still not having it. I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think, is the king's downfall. He should have handled this whole situation a lot sooner in some way. Made a decision, because the fact that he just stuck his head in the sand and let it just go over him, now this is going to happen. And when you die, you're not going to know if things are going to be well with anybody. And you're already not going to know that anyway, because it's so unpredictable in this world. But so then you finally get Allison saying she wants an eye for an eye, basically the whole classic. And then, of course, you get this whole thing breaking down. She asked Kristen first, or Kristen. They actually made a good move, even though he's being a little bit of a bitter dick since everything went down with Rhaenyra. You see even him, though, in the moment she asks Sir Kristen to go and take the eye. At first, when I was watching it, on the first watch, I thought he was saying, oh yeah, I'll do anything for you, I'm your protector. But I guess watching other people and their reactions to this, they have said, and I came to kind of realize that this is probably true, that he was saying, no, I'm your protector, I'm not going to hurt people, especially not kids, especially not the princess's kids. I mean, he would end up dead, most likely in some way, or fucking in jail, no matter what, even if Allison is the queen, because the king obviously has love for Rhaenyra. So, I mean, that's been the whole thing here. Conflict he's still showing more favoritism towards Rhaenyra, even though they have a rocky relationship. Everything's just fucked up. And then, so this thing happens with Allison. She goes up, and then Rhaenyra stops her with the blade. And they just have this moment where Rhaenyra is like, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Show everybody what you are. And that's when she's really starting to show signs of being Cersei-like, even though I think she is a completely different character than Cersei. I think she has more good in her than Cersei did have innately. But I think she's starting to crack a little bit, and this is going to go downhill from here. And especially with Otto still being involved, just feeding this information after this all happened. And by the way, at the end of that, she slices down and cuts from the straight down, not to the side, straight down her whole arm with a Valyrian steel, which is very, to get nerdy here, which is very sharp if you don't know Valyrian steel. But it just cuts her wide open, and she drops the blade. She's realizing she became a monster in that moment. She could be becoming a monster. And then, of course, Otto comes in afterwards and feeds her this bullshit like, you know, I've never seen that side of you. That was pretty fucking awesome. We will now get on the Iron Throne because of this. And that son, Aemon, he is a good guy. It's just like, he's feeding her bullshit. That's pretty much the main thing that happens in this episode. And then, of course, how it ends, though, is pretty wild as well, though. You get Rhaenyra and Damon marrying, even though Rhaenyra was still with Laenor. You have this great scene. I can't not mention this. You have this great scene with Laenor where he kind of, I mean, he's been clumsy and not been a good husband. Let's just face it. And of course, he's gay, so he's not going to be able to fulfill the duty. You know, they've tried. They said they've tried. But with the other stuff of just being there for her as a husband, as a friend even, for whatever duty she needs, he's been off, getting drunk, fucking people and stuff like that. Not, being kind of a party animal type guy, not being around enough. You get this great scene, though, where he admits it. And he really, he knows. He's I haven't been a good husband. I have not been there for you like I should have, but that changes. I'm going to be there for you now. His boyfriend that he's had, that Rhaenyra let him bring to Dragonstone with him, he's going off to fight, thinking with somebody or something. I don't remember what he's doing, going off to sail at the sea or something. So I'm going to stay here. And I love that. That in that scene right there, just the way in that moment, it won me over to really liking him. Like, I cared about his character, Laenor. Like, he was kind of annoying. He wasn't a bad guy. I didn't want him to die or anything like that. But he was just, that won me over. Okay, this guy's a good guy. I can feel that he really is going to try and be a good husband. And then you get the moment where Rhaenyra and Damon are talking, and they said, we should just get married. They had the whole conversation, Rhaenyra and Damon. I love the shot. The beautiful cinematography in this episode continues with this whole season. And just the way they're looking out in the ocean as the ships are sailing away, and then you see that you have the symbolic just moment of Rhaenyra saying, "We don't belong with these people that are from the sea. We are from fire. Let's just," basically, telling Daemon, "Let's just marry each other and let's have our own kids." And then Daemon, of course, retorts and says, "Well, can't marry if you're still with Laenor." And then at that moment, you're thinking, are they really going to do this? Are they really going to kill off Laenor right after? I really just started caring about him. I'm sure a lot of the people did. And you think in that moment, and they have this scene where Daemon goes to his boyfriend, Laenor's boyfriend, and says, "Hey, make it a quick death. Give him some money." And you still think it's going to happen, and they have the kind of, I guess now you assume it's a fake battle in the Valarians' little room. I don't know what you call it. Their little their hall or whatever. And of course they come back, and that they ended up killing just a random guy. Daemon, I believe, broke his neck, and then they put him in the fire, and then Laenor and the boyfriend run away together, which I really love, because at first when they're in the fire like that, and the way Rhaenys, the actress Rhaenys, she is so good in this moment. The scream she gives out, it reminded me of the scream that Mama Stark from Winterfell. Mama Stark, I can't remember her name now, but when in the Red Wedding, when Robb Stark died, it just reminded me of that moment when she was screaming. But this one, even Rhaenys even goes even harder, because now she's lost her daughter. They just had the funeral for her daughter, and now she believes her son is dead. And at that time, I believed it. Everyone, I'm sure, believed it. But then I do love the cathartic moment you get when you see Laenor and his dude and his man going off together. I think that was a good moment, because I'm not sure. Some people, I think I was hearing rumblings that in the books Laenor actually maybe really dies. That would have been a classic Game of Thrones thing to do, but I'm glad they ended it that way. So yeah, that was kind of my deep dive on this latest episode. Kind of more of just a breakdown, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. I got a lot more videos to shoot. I'm going to be coming out with a lot of content here soon. But I'm loving House of the Dragon. It's right there to me. This last episode, it's classic peak Game of Thrones, with the writing, the dialogue, like I said, the political drama, the way you don't know what's going to happen, and all these different machinations, and people having different desires and wants and secrets that they're trying to keep inside. It's classic the way they're doing this, and I'm glad they've brought it this way. I'm glad they've built it this way. With the time jumps, it has worked. I know some people have railed on the time jump, like I kind of mentioned before, with changing of the actresses, and also the huge 10-year time jump. It can make it feel a little distant, I guess, I'm sure, with some people, and that was kind of my going to be maybe my issue at first. But once they did it so well, and it just was seamless. How the last 2 episodes have been great. I'm right on with Olivia Cook being Allison and the DRC being Rhaenyra. So yeah, I'm really loving this. I think there's 10 episodes in this, so 3 more episodes, I believe. Kind of sucks it's about to come to an end already, but all good things must come to an end, and this has been a great first season. I don't know how many they're going to end up doing, but yeah, I don't know. I might come out with more videos of on House of the Dragon. I'm not sure yet. With TV shows, I think I might have mentioned this in the Andor video, but with TV shows, I'm more random with it. If I do like a series, I might just do a video every now and then on, like I'm doing with this House of the Dragon. But with movies, it's more obviously it's a movie, so I'll come out with it whenever I see it. I didn't say at the beginning, but go follow me on my socials, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't post a lot there. Most of my stuff does come here on YouTube, but I will post some reactions, instant reactions coming out of theaters and whatnot on TikTok and Snapchat, and sometimes just some content from here as well. But yeah, just go follow me on there, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I appreciate anything. I'm still just a starter YouTube channel here, trying to get my feet wet here in the old YouTube. That'll be it for now, and I will see you guys later.